Picture yourself walking through the dry, dusty streets of a small town. On every corner, kids play hopscotch and men share gossip. Then suddenly you hear a gasp and a shout. Someone has just found an ancient relic, a long-lost artifact from the distant past. You rush over and find a group of people gathered around a weathered stone tablet covered in strange symbols and words. As you peer closer, you realize it's a piece of a biblical narrative, one that survived the sands of time and now rests in this ordinary place. This isn't a scene from a movie. It's happening right now in museums and archaeological sites all over the world. Ancient artifacts are being discovered and studied, revealing new insights into the past. And some are suggesting that these findings are changing our understanding of well-known Bible stories, including the tale of the Mark of Cain. Let us rewind back to the dawn of human history when the world was young and humanity was still finding its footing. At the heart of this story are two brothers named Cain and Abel, the sons of Adam and Eve. Their story is like a mirror reflecting the best and worst of humanity. Abel was a shepherd, a man of the land, who lived a simple life tending to his flock. He was a quiet, contemplative soul whose thoughts often drifted to the heavens. His brother Cain was a farmer, a tiller of the soil, whose days were filled with the hard work of cultivating crops. He was a fiery, ambitious man who took pride in his labors. Now, despite their differences, there was a bond between them, a brotherhood forged in the fires of creation. But this unity didn't last. A rift began to form, growing steadily wider until it fractured their relationship beyond repair. What caused this divide? It wasn't an external force or a sudden event. It was something much more profound, a battle of the heart, jealousy. In those early days, the concept of sacrifice was central to human existence. It was a way to express devotion, to seek closeness with something greater than oneself. Abel understood this. He had a deep connection to God, and he wanted to honor that bond. So when it was time for sacrifice, he brought to God the best of his flock, the purest and most innocent lambs, an offering that spoke of his unwavering faith. Cain, on the other hand, saw things differently. He was proud, arrogant, and he believed his gift should match his status. He didn't offer the best of his harvest, nor did he show the reverence that Abel did. Instead, he presented his offering with a sense of entitlement, believing his devotion was a given. This attitude didn't go unnoticed. Scripture tells us that God looked upon Abel's sacrifice with favor, but he did not look upon Cain's offering with favor. Imagine the turmoil this caused. Cain, the elder brother, had been rejected, his offering deemed unworthy. How could this be? His heart burned with resentment and envy. He couldn't understand why Abel, with his simple offerings, was accepted when he himself was denied. It was a wound that festered, turning into something dark and dangerous. Then came the moment of truth. The brothers were in the field, likely working their fields. It was a peaceful setting, a place where brothers could put aside their differences and focus on their tasks. But the tranquility was deceptive. A storm was brewing inside Cain, a storm that threatened to engulf them both. Suddenly, overcome by his dark emotions, he turned to his brother and struck him down. It was a spontaneous act, fueled by jealousy and pride. In that moment, Cain had crossed a line that could never be erased. He had taken a life, not in self-defense, but out of pure malice. The weight of his actions crashed down on him. In the stillness that followed, he heard the voice of his victim, not in words, but in the silent scream of the dying. It was a sound that echoed in his soul, reminding him of what he had done. His brother's blood seeped into the ground, staining the earth with their family's shame. It was a physical manifestation of his sin, a constant reminder of what he had taken away. Yet amidst this horror, a question hung in the air, unanswered and echoing. Was this truly the end? The answer, as it often does, lay in the unexpected. Enter God not as a booming voice from the heavens, but with a simple, "Where is your brother Abel?" The question was innocent, almost casual, yet it carried the weight of eternity. It demanded an answer, a confession, a reckoning. And Cain's response, "Am I my brother's keeper?" These words weren't just an answer. They were a shield, a desperate attempt to evade responsibility. They were a cry of a guilty conscience, trying to hide behind feigned ignorance. But the divine gaze was relentless. It saw through Cain's facade, recognizing the blood on his hands and the deceit in his eyes. God pronounced a curse upon him. The ground, once fruitful under his brother's care, would now turn against him. It wouldn't yield its bounty, a fitting punishment for a man who had rejected God's grace. But this wasn't all. God knew that Cain, driven by guilt and fear, might take flight, abandoning his home and seeking refuge elsewhere. So he added another layer to the curse, making Cain a wanderer, restless, and never truly belonging. Imagine the terror that must have gripped Cain at that moment. He had just murdered his brother, desecrated his bond with God, and now faced a future of solitude. But even in this bleak picture, there's a glimmer of humanity. Cain, overwhelmed with fear, cried out for mercy. It was a desperate plea from a soul tormented by its own darkness. In response, God showed an unexpected compassion. He placed a mark upon Cain, a mysterious symbol that acted as both a warning and a shield. It was a sign that no man should harm him, an assurance of safety, but also a reminder of his sin. The mark of Cain, shrouded in secrecy, became a burning question in human history, a puzzle that scholars and theologians have tried to solve for centuries. What exactly was this mark? Some believe it was a physical sign, perhaps a scar or a birthmark, something visible and tangible. Others argue it was a spiritual mark, a shadow that followed Cain, a burden he carried in his soul. But regardless of its nature, the mark served its purpose. It allowed Cain to continue his journey on earth without fear of immediate retribution. He was safe, but at what cost? He was a marked man, carrying the stigma of his crime. The story doesn't end here. Cain went on to build a city, to establish roots and create a legacy. He fathered children, each one born under the shadow of their father's sin. Yet this legacy wasn't tainted. His descendants became renowned smiths, musicians, and builders, playing pivotal roles in shaping early civilizations. They created beauty and progress despite the darkness that loomed over them. Think about the paradox here. The descendants of a killer were contributing to the very civilization that would judge and remember their ancestors' sin. It raises questions about the nature of legacy and the resilience of humanity. So what does the story of the Mark of Cain teach us? Firstly, it's a powerful exploration of human emotion, a raw look at jealousy, guilt, and the struggle for redemption. It reminds us that even the first humans grappled with issues we face today. Secondly, It touches on the complexities of divine justice and mercy. God punishes Cain for his crime, but he also shows mercy, sparing his life and giving him a chance at redemption. Finally, it's a story about consequences and legacy. Cain's actions, driven by uncontrolled emotions, had ripple effects that reached far beyond his lifetime. His descendants, innocent of their father's sin, still bore the weight of his actions. It's a sobering reminder that our actions, whether good or bad, shape not just our own lives, but the lives of those who come after us. The Mark of Cain is a timeless symbol, a testament to the enduring power of the human story. It's a story that speaks to us across millennia, reminding us that we are not defined by our mistakes, but also that those mistakes come with consequences. As you walk away from this story, let it echo in your thoughts. Let it be a lesson, a warning, and an inspiration. Be cautious of the destructive power of unchecked emotions. Embrace the importance of responsibility, and above all, recognize that even in the darkest of situations, there's always the possibility of redemption. And if you're eager to unearth more tales from the distant past, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. There are many more stories waiting to come alive again.